Heartbreak isn't the end. It's the beginning of understanding something you were never ready to see. And this person didn't just leave your life. They left behind a version of you that will never be the same again. You don't realize it at first. You think it's just pain, just silence, just missing someone who once felt like your entire world. But slowly, in that quiet space they left behind, something begins to change inside you. Not loudly, not suddenly, but deeply. Because heartbreak doesn't destroy you, it reveals you, and this is what most people never understand. The person who broke your heart wasn't just a chapter that ended. They were a mirror that showed you your attachments, your fears, your expectations, and the parts of yourself you never questioned before. You start remembering small things, the way you laughed with them, the way silence felt comfortable, But here is the truth you will one day thank them for. They didn't come into your life just to stay. They came to awaken something inside you that comfort could never teach. And if you stay with this video till the end, you will understand why losing them was not your destruction, but your transformation. What if they were never meant to stay? When someone enters your life, especially in moments of emotional vulnerability, they don't just become a person, they become a meaning. You don't just see them as someone you like. You begin to see them as your future, and slowly, without noticing, you start building an entire universe around a single human being. This is where the illusion begins. The mind, in its desire for safety, convinces you that what feels good must last forever. You stop seeing reality and start seeing permanence in moments that were always temporary. Philosophers like Buddha describe this as attachment, the root of suffering, because everything that is born in time is already moving toward change. Think about it. They didn't promise forever. Your mind did. You didn't just love them. You attached your identity to them, and that is why the loss doesn't just hurt. It shakes your sense of self. There is a moment after every heartbreak where you realize, I was living in a story I wrote, not reality. And that realization is painful, but it is also the beginning of wisdom. Because when the illusion breaks, you are forced to see something uncomfortable. They were never yours to keep. They were just part of your experience, not your possession. And once you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop chasing permanence and start understanding presence. What if they were never the problem, but the reflection? After the illusion of forever breaks, something even more uncomfortable begins to surface. The realization that heartbreak is not only about losing someone, but about discovering who you were while loving them, because people don't just enter your life to stay, they enter to reveal. There is a quiet truth hidden inside every deep connection. The way you love someone is often a reflection of what you lack within yourself, not in a blaming way, but in a revealing way. You begin to see your fears disguised as love, your insecurity disguised as care, your attachment disguised as devotion, and this is where the pain transforms into awareness. They didn't just show you affection, they showed you your dependence on it. They didn't just leave, they showed you what emptiness feels like when validation disappears. They didn't just reject you, they revealed how much of your identity was tied to being chosen. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And heartbreak is exactly that mirror, brutal, honest, and impossible to ignore. You start remembering moments you once ignored, the overthinking, the waiting for replies, the emotional highs and lows that you once called love, but were actually emotional dependency wearing a beautiful disguise. And slowly, a strange shift begins. You stop asking, "Why did they leave me?" and start asking, "Who was I when I was with them?" That question changes everything. Because now the story is no longer about them, it's about you. the version of you that existed in that connection, the version that loved too deeply, feared too much, and gave without boundaries. And when you finally see that reflection clearly, you don't just feel pain, you feel awakening, because the mirror didn't break you. It showed you what needed to be rebuilt. What if your heartbreak was actually your transformation beginning? There comes a point after the reflection when the pain no longer feels like something happening to you, but something happening within you. And this is where heartbreak changes its form. At first, it feels like loss. Then it becomes memory. But eventually, it becomes awareness. A slow, silent rewiring of how you see yourself, others, and love itself. Because pain is not just emotional, it is educational. It teaches in ways comfort never can. When everything is going well, you rarely question your patterns, but when someone leaves, everything you ignored starts speaking. The nights feel longer, the silence feels louder, and your mind begins replaying moments you once overlooked, not to punish you, but to process you. You start noticing something strange. You are not the same person who fell in love, and that is the hidden truth of heartbreak. It doesn't just end relationships, it ends versions of you. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius believed that suffering is not an obstacle, but a tool, a force that strips away illusion and forces clarity. And in that clarity, you begin to understand something deeper. You were not just attached to a person, you were attached to a feeling they gave you about yourself. The feeling of being chosen, the feeling of being enough, the feeling of being seen. And when that feeling disappears, you are left with yourself, raw, unfiltered, uncomfortably honest. But this is where the rewiring begins. You stop chasing what left. You start questioning why you needed it so badly. And slowly, you begin to rebuild your emotional foundation, not on people, but on awareness, because heartbreak doesn't just break you open, it rebuilds your perception of love from dependence into understanding. And once that shift happens, you are no longer the same person who was broken. You are the person who is becoming free. What if losing them was the lesson, not the punishment? There is a moment in every heartbreak journey when the questions finally change. You stop asking why it happened. You stop replaying what went wrong. You stop trying to mentally rewrite a story that has already ended, and instead, you begin to see something deeper. You begin to understand that this person was never just a lover in your life. They were a teacher in disguise, not in the way you expected, not with advice or guidance, but through absence, through silence, through loss. Because sometimes the universe doesn't teach you through answers. It teaches you through endings. They taught you how deeply you can feel. They taught you how quickly you can attach. They taught you how easily you can lose yourself in someone else's presence. But most importantly, they taught you what happens when that presence is gone. And in that absence, something powerful begins to grow. Self-awareness. You start noticing patterns. You start recognizing emotional cycles. You start understanding that love is not possession, not dependency, not fear of loss, but clarity, respect, and emotional freedom. As Friedrich Nietzsche said, that which does not kill us makes us stronger, but what is often missed is the deeper meaning. It doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you more conscious, because after heartbreak, you no longer love blindly. You love with awareness, with boundaries, with understanding of your own worth. And then one day, you realize something unexpected. You are no longer waiting for them. You are no longer defined by them. You are no longer lost in the story that ended. You are present again, not because the pain disappeared, but because you outgrew the version of yourself that needed them to feel whole. And this is the final truth. They didn't leave to destroy you. They left to return you back to yourself. So when you look back now, don't only see what you lost, see what you became. Because heartbreak was never your ending story. It was the beginning of your awareness, and the person you thought broke you was the same person who quietly built you into someone you were always meant to become.